All right. Now, this is a question that has come up as a result of some meetings that we've had on Glass-Steagall and the material published on the nature of the Dodd-Frank Act. And what's been happening is, in certain cases, there has been a very positive response to the fact of positive in the sense of strong concern to the fact that Dodd-Frank loops the United States, hooks the United States into an international bail-in regime, and as it stands, the Dodd-Frank Act is still the shining example for other international bail-in regimes, which are being worked on really as we speak within the European Union. So while we have gotten stunned recognition that this is in fact the case, there's also been a lot of resistance. In particular, there was a meeting in Washington, D.C. earlier this week where we were asked not so nicely to leave the office of a congressman because we insisted that the implications of enacting Title II, the Orderly Liquidation Authority of Dodd-Frank, would result in the death of millions of Americans through economic deprivation. And this aide refused to hear it, said, no, that's not the case. That can't be the case. What you're saying is over the top. That was one response. Another response from a representative of the AFL-CIO at a conference earlier this week was that Title II of Dodd-Frank is, in fact, a good thing, and that in 2008, the financial system needed support. So the question wasn't whether the government should act, but how it should act. And he responded by saying the big question is, will Title II be used in the case of the insolvency of one of these G-SIFIs? Will it be used? And there's a vulnerability if it is used because it involves cross-border bank resolution. Will other nations invoke the same authorities? So that's a vulnerability. And he went on to say that if another SIFI went down and we didn't have Title II to invoke, it would mean severe damage for our democracy. Now, one more response, because I'll just throw in right now that these are they're clearly lies. People are clearly lying, and you get into a situation. People often throw lies at you as an organizer to shut you up. They lie to you to get you to just leave me alone. I'll lie to you. Just leave me alone. So that's happening now. This other response came in from a representative to one of our activists out in a western state, saying on Glass-Steagall, the most popular reason given to justify bringing back Glass-Steagall's separation is to safeguard FDIC-insured deposits from being lost through risky activities. However, others argue that while Gramm-Leach-Bliley allows deposit-taking banks to affiliate with securities firms through holding companies, depositors and taxpayers are protected because affiliates can't take capital out of the bank. So, because these are responses that are coming up in the organizing situation, I would like you to just take the opportunity to put yourself in the shoes of our activists, and what do we do in response to these kinds of lines?
Right. Well, first of all, anyone who knows anything about economy, who is not utterly confused by all the garbage that's thrown at their face and so forth, we should recognize that essentially what has happened, if you look at employment characteristics, if you look at the value of income, that is by taking the inflation account into account and so forth, what you're seeing is that over the entire period since 1971, the United States has been in a clear decline, with ebbs and flows in the decline. So the conditions of life of the average American is worse by the year since 1971. It didn't start then. The figures were still fake. You had the beginning of the process was the assassination of John F. Kennedy as president. That created the authorization for going into an Indochina war, which lasted for about a decade. This destroyed the morality and much of the economy of the United States. That is, though some money was being put into things which would boost income in certain categories, the basic income of production and real wealth was being undermined. And we saw that with the decline of the space program. Everything was declining. From 1968 on, everything was declining. And the war in Indochina extended this problem. That is, the collapse was greater. Now you had a new president. We had, some foolish presidents in the meantime. One we threw out of office, fortunately. But others who should have been thrown out of office. And what happened, we had a new president, but the new president was outflanked. He had some good intentions, but he was outflanked. I was collaborating with him. He was outflanked. And he made his statement. He stood by it to the end of his career, probably virtually to the end of his life, the SDI. And so that was our policy. But we were losing. The income was losing. What was gaining was a certain kind of income, Wall Street type income. So we had an inflation in Wall Street type income and similar kinds of swindles, outright swindles, drug swindles, all kinds of screwy things, really terrible, stupid things. So we have been actually in a constant. Now anybody who has lived through the equivalent of 3+ generations as I have, knows from experience that that is the record. That if you divide the thing between the gamblers and Wall Street are the gamblers. Now they have a lot of money involved. They have a lot of options involved. But we're talking about production. We're talking about the production of food, the production of everything. That is real things. We're talking about health care and other real things. The real things have been suffering. They are going down. What controls everything is Wall Street and its European extensions from Britain. So we are in a breakdown of the world. So therefore, with these guys, if Wall Street is taking over the economy totally, as what they're saying, that's what Glass-Steagall will defeat. And what they're doing is nothing but hyperinflation. The rate of inflation now. Just look at the price of anything. Look at salaries of people. Compare that with the prices of anything that they buy. And look at the condition of income. Look at the housing. Look at the food supplies. Look at the food. Your food supply is being destroyed. By whom? Obama. Obama is a leader in destroying the food supply of the United States. Cattle, grains, all these things are being destroyed and turned into what? Gasoline, kerosene, instead of food. People are starving. The starving is going to get worse. And you're going to say that these guys who have triumphed in pushing through these swindles over all these years, that they are suddenly going to find a cheerful heart and go to your door and give you all Christmas presents all year round or something like that? These are the world's worst swindlers. and the most successful ones so far, unfortunately. So the time has come that anybody who would support these kinds of policies that Wall Street wants could be lynched. Because the hatred against such people is piling up, it's piling up. You see it in Europe, it's piling up. The only thing that prevents explosions of that type is people are too scared to fight. And when there's a point in time where the fear of the danger of fighting and the sense of desperation if you don't fight changes the whole direction of history. And that's where we are now. Mankind will either go into something worse than a worldwide Nazi system, which is what's threatened. That's what this means. Dodd-Frank means that. If it were actually implemented in any form, it would be the authorship of genocide inside the United States and beyond. But who's behind it? Well, the people who are gamblers, the Wall Street gamblers. They all want the gambling proceeds. They don't think in terms of food. They don't think in terms of lives of people. They don't think in terms of health care. They think of their money and their money per se. They care nothing about the human being. And they're not prepared to do anything about it. Well, the point is, sometimes justice imposes a penalty upon the abuser. And the time has come. I don't think any of us who are not gutless and who are sane would give a dime for Wall Street.